Hello. Okay. That's all right. I'll introduce myself anyway. So, nice to meet everyone. We're here in, obviously, automation, robotics and drones, and I'm going to talk about people. So, my name's Nick Brown. I'm the General Manager for Mining for Thiess. Now, we have a few General Managers. Under my remit, I'll look after two of our projects, both of which have autonomous operations. But in particular today, I want to talk to you about Pembroke's operation, which is Olive Downs. Now, straight away, I'm going to give you a fairly raw, transparent approach to, I suppose, how you implement technology and autonomy in an operating mine site. And I'm going to address the elephant in the room straight away. For those of you who have heard about Olive Downs, you've probably also heard that we've had some challenges. And we did actually scale back the fleet for a period of time, and we turned off some autonomy operations. And what you'll hear about today is not only how we've turned them back on, but how we've expanded. And I want to talk to you about how we did that. Now, I won't be able to do it unless I have a clicker. Is this my clicker? Yes? Oh, okay, we are working. Apologies. I'll change hands and do right hand here. So where we are today. So as of today, a little bit about Thiess's automation. We currently have 30 autonomous haul trucks, and all 30 of them are operating at Olive Downs Mine in central Queensland. On top of that, we do also have a fair few drills and dozers. So we have 9 autonomous drills. We have 3 of them at Olive Downs. We also have another further lot of drills at Lake Vermont, a little bit further south near Dysart, a few in New South Wales, and we're actually about to employ more over in Canada, international venture. We also have 6 semi-autonomous dozers. Now, those dozers all sit at Lake Vermont operation as well at Dysart, and they do bulk push, mostly in overburden, but also in some rehabilitation applications. So the case study today we'll talk about is really the 30 autonomous haul trucks. And I want to talk to you, I suppose, about how we applied this technology to a greenfield operation, and I suppose the learnings that we've taken along that journey. No, that's the wrong button, that's the right one. So at Thiess, look, we're proud to be an autonomy leader, but I want to touch on our vision for a second. So Thiess's vision is to harness the power of people and technology to drive sustainable change. Power of people. That's what I want to highlight today, because what we've really determined over the last couple of years is without that critical importance of the person, the people, you actually cannot drive any technological change. You cannot drive sustainable change. So let's talk about our people. With Thiess, we've got more than 14,000 of them. I think most of us know we're one of the world's largest, we are the world's largest mining services contractor. But we operate across 8 different countries, everywhere from freezing areas in Mongolia to northern Canada, and then down even into the Atacama Desert in Chile in the high alpine regions. Most of our autonomous operations sit here in Australia. I suppose we do operate over 50 projects, but also we offer a broad range of services. So our services range from engineering, design, construction works. That also covers things like decarbonisation and rehabilitation, but also then in the execution of that. So that's around open pit mining, underground mining, civil construction works. We have a very broad fleet, and if I jump to the next slide, I'll talk to you about our autonomous fleet. So our journey in autonomy started about 13 years ago. 2012, we were employed over in the Pilbara, and our job there was very specific. Our client wanted for us to convert, optimise and then transition back to the client a full fleet of autonomous haul trucks. And we did that very successfully, and that was basically our introduction to autonomy and for a lot of Australia, the introduction to autonomy. We then took a bit of a side approach and focused more on drills and dozers, and that was more in our wheelhouse of what we could control. And I suppose that started off 2019, our first fully autonomous drill in New South Wales. That grew through a few years over 2019 to 2022 at Lake Vermont, again one of my operations, where not only did we expand autonomous drills, but we went into the semi-autonomous dozers. A few more drills through New South Wales, and then we came to autonomy haul trucks again. And I suppose 2019 was when we signed our deal with Pembroke, but really 2022 and 23 was where autonomy began. So by early 2024, we had 21 fully autonomous dump trucks and 3 autonomous drills operating at Olive Downs. As I said earlier, where we sit today, we've increased that now to 30 haul trucks, and I suppose over the next few months and into next year, our autonomy journey is expanding, I suppose, and into Canada with drills and dozers over there as well. So where did Thiess play a part, I suppose, in the autonomy journey? So we aren't resource owners, so our clients are the resource owners. And I suppose what we see us as being is we really bring that mining and now autonomy and technology capability to the resource owners. I suppose you could say we bridge the gap. So we've obviously got technology partners. Some of them are the OEM suppliers, Caterpillar, Komatsu. There's also technology partners, and they develop this technology. But obviously we draw on our long experience history of executing this package of technology autonomy into operations. And I suppose we bring not only 90 years of mining background, but now we bring 13 years of autonomy and technology to that gap. So a lot of people say, why autonomy? I listened to the great conversation just a couple of 20 minutes ago. And there's a lot of conversation there about what autonomy brings or sometimes doesn't bring to an operation. For me, I suppose, this is probably me more personally, there's a couple of core pillars. So one is, we obviously talk about safety. You can see Corey here, one of our builders, sitting in a safe control room, away from the operation. Now, Corey's a great example of our workforce where we've upskilled and taken them away from the line of fire. Now, the autonomous haul trucks are one of the most technologically advanced haul trucks in our industry. I suppose they've got that many layers of safety that it's pretty hard to make them either collide with each other or have a serious incident. So that in itself obviously brings a level of safety. But importantly, you obviously want to talk about production improvements. So there has to be an operational performance element to anything that we implement. I suppose for us, where we land today, we've definitely seen an increase in availability, but we've also seen a significant increase in utilisation. If you think about an autonomous haul truck, it doesn't need to go to the toilet, it doesn't need to have crib brakes, it certainly doesn't need to pre-start, it knows what it's going to do. All it needs to do is really stop for a refuel. I suppose that's its crib brake. And what we've got is trucks that run for 24 hours before they need a refuel. So I suppose our focus then is on the control room and on our digger operators and dozer operators to make sure we support them in hot seating and essentially getting the efficiency out of the haul trucks to make them run up to 22 and a half, 23 hours in any given day. Obviously, when you have an increase in availability, you have an increase in utilisation, you get more production. We see that through, I suppose, a very reliable and I suppose a reduction in variability of the operations. The haul trucks do exactly what we tell them to do. And I guess the flow on from that then is we want to focus on our people. Let's jump back to the start, people. So what does autonomy bring to people? And we heard it through the panel earlier. It is really about upskilling of jobs. I'll talk to you a little bit more later, but we have obviously generated career pathways for a lot of our existing workforce. We've upskilled people in, I suppose, what we call careers of the future, or the careers of now. But also we see those careers as providing an increase in flexibility and potentially some more mobility options for our workforce as we move to some more semi-remote or fully remote operations. So let's jump into Olive Downs. So Pembroke Resources employed us to operate their mine for them, fully greenfield operation, and went from greenfield to fully autonomous in 18 months. Never been done before. And I suppose what's on the screen here was a tremendous success. So as an early snapshot, first 6 to 12 months was all about technology. It was about systems, processes, building a control room, making sure our mine systems could actually work with the autonomy that we're implementing, working with the industry and the representatives. From that point onwards, though, it became about actual execution. So 6 months then was around, getting the first blue light. So blue light is an autonomous vehicle in our operations. And you'll see there, it was only 6 months from the very first blue light through to full AH control and hitting production targets. What we learnt, though, is when you do that much work in 18 months, culture is slower than technology. Technology can advance at extreme rates of speed, but bringing the people for the journey is actually a real challenge. And I guess early success demonstrated that we could do it, but the longer term success was about how we bring our people on the journey. Got a great little video coming up. Hopefully it plays straight away. Excellent. So what you see here, side by side, is what you see in real time in the pit, a Liebherr 9800 loading a Caterpillar 794 fully autonomous dump truck. No driver, no operator, that's driving for itself. On the other side, you're right, is what the mine controls see in the control room. So that is the virtual mine sitting in the control room of that same simulated dump truck. What you're looking at is a truck that is hauling up ramps, navigating corners, intersections, goes near a grader there and you see it navigates around the grader, finds its way to a tip head and successfully very soon reverses in and dumps a load of about 320 tonne on the back of that 794. The first 6 months was a dream. It was our honeymoon period. But in reality, what we saw 6 months later was somewhat different. Like I said, I'll be honest. The operation became more complex. I suppose what we saw is interaction between the equipment was increasing as we ramped up the production as well. And overall, that led to a decrease in our performance. There was even, I'd say, the belief out there that perhaps the mine was too complicated for autonomy. So the reality on the ground was we needed to do a reset. We had trucks stopping, we had trucks not getting up the ramps, intersections caused problems, but more importantly, they weren't getting back under the digger. And if you haven't got a truck under a digger, you're not getting performance. So we did a reset. And I mentioned it earlier, this is the elephant in the room. We actually did pause our operations for autonomy and we scaled back to just one fleet. Why one fleet? Because we could focus exactly on what was making that network efficient or not. We had to rethink what we needed to do, and I suppose what we landed on is we recognised we had developed a friction in our teams. So we had a control room team and a mining operation team, and they weren't working together, they weren't in harmony, and we had some friction develop between the two of them. So all of our partners came together, Pembroke, ourselves, Caterpillar, and Hastings, our local dealer, and I suppose we worked as a team to work through how do we not only bring the people on the journey, but how do we improve the technology to get the right execution. In essence, it was a knowledge reset. If I come back to the start, we'd established Olive Downs with a cultural framework. We spoke about people, technology, and process. We'd forgotten about the people. We'd focused all about technology and process. So I suppose what I wanted to do is I actually started saying, hey, let's stop calling these things autonomous trucks. They're semi-autonomous, or you think of the word autonomous and you think about a robot, it thinks for itself. None of these trucks think for themselves. They don't drive around obstacles, they don't make their own decisions at intersections, they follow what we tell them to do. It's actually a human that is still thinking for them. Yes, they've got a computer, yes, they're following a path. So how do we develop a cross-functional team that's all working as one? No heroes, reset the culture, control room, crew working together, and of course leadership alignment across the senior leadership team. We needed to find a way really that resonated with the workforce, and we thought about other companies, other mines, outside of the industry, inside of the industry, and then we actually landed on sport. I mean, sport resonates with most people, right? Just so happens a lot of us were big Formula One fans too, so we found a sport that we liked and we could talk to. If you really think about it, there is no better example in sport of a team working together than 24 individuals changing the tyres on a Formula One car in less than 2 seconds. That's teamwork. So how do you make a mine think like a Formula One car? So I'm not going to lie to you, we rolled this out to our entire workforce, more than 500 people. And we said, we want to be a Formula One pit crew. If you think about it, it's actually quite clever. So who's our driver? Our driver is our mining manager. We want to be the world champions, which means our mine manager and his crews are the world champions. You've got 4 tyres. We've got 4 crews, A crew, B crew, C crew, D crew. If one crew doesn't turn up and perform efficiently, that truck doesn't get out of the pit stop, or the car doesn't get out of its pit stop. If one crew doesn't perform efficiently on the operation isn't a success. You don't become the world champions. You can have a laugh too, right? You can play around, so you've got your technical director, that's your tech services manager. You've got your what do we call them, the chief mechanic, obviously our maintenance manager, team principal, our SSE and project manager. But ultimately what we're saying is we are all here to support the driver. And our driver is Bryce Flannery, he's our mining manager. And our mine is really our circuit. And we're driving these haul trucks around a circuit. So let's get together and support the full team. So I suppose, what were the outcomes? So of the original 21 haul trucks, like I said, we did a bit of a reset. Within 3 months, all 21 of them were back operating again. Since then, a further 9 have been commissioned. And I suppose, obviously, we wouldn't be doing that unless we'd seen success in the first 21. But more importantly, we have built a really strong winning culture. So we touched on safety. We've done this without any incidents, and I'm not just talking about people incidents, I'm talking about significant mining incidents with equipment and people alike. And again, we've got our control room on the screen there. It's Rachel, one of our head trainers, and she was a big part in turning the control room into understanding our operations. But what we did with people is we really looked at that career pathways. And we focused on bringing mining experience into our control room and bringing technological experience into our mining operations. We have upskilled more than 750 people now in Thiess, not just at Olive Downs, but predominantly at Olive Downs, in automation and technology. All of our workforce at Olive Downs now understand how to work in, around, or for autonomy. Not only that, we've got mining supervisors who now live and breathe in the control room. Some of our control room supervisors have come through operators in mining. We've also taken our control room and actually put them out in the field, made them learn what it's like to be a mining supervisor controlling the crews. And I mentioned our technical director, our tech services team. We couldn't forget them either. So our full tech services team rotate through that control room to understand the designs that they're implementing, how they look in virtual reality in a virtual mine screen, but then how they get executed by an autonomous haul truck. But each part of those processes all come back to the winning Formula One team. We're all part of F1, guys. We've got to go and get this car around the circuit. That's the people side. It results in performance. So since the reset, we've now moved more than 64 million cubes of material with autonomous trucks. Now, obviously, we do have some conventional mining there as well. Put that into perspective, we're in Sydney, it's about 3,000 Sydney harbours. That's only in 2 years' time. On average, well over 6,000 hours of work time. That's not SMU for those playing at home. That's work hours on all of our autonomous vehicles. And more than 6.4 million kilometres of time travelled on the road by a haul truck. And I like my little snippets. So that's like travelling to the moon and back 83 times. That's in 2 years. What was the big lesson? Look, there's no room for people who aren't a team player. I think we say that a lot, but we don't often say that around technology. The technology is still around people implementation. The team culture was critical for our success at Olive Downs. And as I say here, look, people and process drive technology, but culture breeds success. It doesn't matter what technology you put into a mining pit. You have to understand how a mine works in order for you to implement it. And I guess that's where we as Thiess believe we bring the capability and the experience. And look, the learnings. There have been tough learnings along the way as to how to implement that technology. Our technology superstars in the control room, our organisational experts and operational experts out in the pit, they need to be one team if we're going to deliver a Formula One world champion. The other thing is, look, scaling autonomy is sustainable, but the starting is always the hardest, I suppose, and we've been through that. So scaling from where we are, that's why we could go from 21 trucks to another 9 trucks within that same period of actually trying to recognise and learn the technology that we had in front of us. What's next? I've got 8 seconds, so look at that. What's next? So for us right now at Olive Downs, it's about establishing and continuing to perform. So we are continuing to drive success. We still see areas where we can improve. Every operation should. If you don't, come and talk to us. We'll find them for you. But ultimately for Thiess, we now see ourselves as we've established the benchmark of what we want to achieve, and we're now driving that further, I suppose. Obviously, put that out there. We're all around today. If you want to come and talk to Thiess around our journey through autonomy, not just in trucks, but obviously in drills and dozers, please reach out. But other than that, on the 0 second mark, thank you for listening today. Hope you learned something.